You might look at a sunspot, a patch of melasma, and a seborrheic keratosis and think they all look the same. To the untrained eye, they're just brown spots on the skin. But in dermatology, we see these three as completely distinct conditions. Though they may appear similar, their root causes, their treatments, and even the order in which you should apply medicated creams are entirely different. For the past 20 years, I've dedicated my career to one thing: specializing in pigmentary disorders of the skin. My name is Dr. John Miller, and I'm a board-certified dermatologist. I'll be honest with you, back when I was in medical school, I used to think all these spots looked alike too. It was a confusing landscape of browns and tans. But after becoming a specialist and having the privilege of examining thousands of patients, I began to see the subtle yet critical differences. The smallest details, whether the border of a spot is sharp or blurry, whether it feels rough or smooth to the touch, whether its color is uniform or mottled, determine a completely different course of treatment. These aren't just trivial distinctions. They are the signposts that guide us to the correct therapy. Every single day in my clinic, I hear a version of the same heartbreaking story. A patient comes in and tells me, "Dr. Miller, I saw something on the internet, a home remedy that promised to clear my spots in a week. I tried it for a few months, and now it's so much worse." The things people have put on their faces are genuinely shocking. One person used apple cider vinegar, another tried onion juice. I even had a patient who applied a paste made of toothpaste, believing it would bleach the spot away. I've heard it all. People who gave themselves chemical burns with lemon juice, people who scrubbed their skin raw with salt, creating open wounds that then became infected. The stories are endless, and they are all cautionary tales. The internet, especially video sharing platforms, has become a minefield of dangerous misinformation. You see these flashy, sensational titles: "Erase your age spots in one day," or "This one kitchen ingredient cures all blemishes." These exaggerated claims are everywhere, preying on people's desire for a quick, cheap fix. But the reality I see in my practice is that far more people end up with chemical burns and a condition called post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, dark staining, that is often worse than the original spot than people who are miraculously cured. The reason these mistakes happen is quite simple. Most people don't know how to accurately tell the difference between various skin lesions. But I promise you, once you learn to properly distinguish them, you'll be able to identify which spots can be safely managed with an affordable $15 cream from the drugstore and which ones absolutely require a visit to a dermatologist. Do you know what the most frustrating cases I've seen in my 20 years of practice are? They are the ones that started as a simple sunspot, something that could have been easily treated with a basic cream if caught early. But because the person tried the wrong methods, the spot grew larger, darker, and more complicated, turning a simple problem into a long, expensive ordeal. On the flip side, I also see countless patients who have mistaken their melasma for sunspots. They spend months applying over-the-counter creams with no results, eventually giving up in despair, thinking their condition is hopeless. It's not hopeless. They were just using the wrong tool for the job. Today, I'm going to give you the knowledge you need. We'll cover everything from the over-the-counter sunspot treatments you can buy at your local pharmacy to the serious conditions that demand a doctor's visit. I will teach you how to tell them apart and provide a detailed, practical guide for at-home care. We'll pay special attention to the pigmented lesions that tend to appear and multiply after the age of 60, and I'll give you a precise roadmap on how to manage them. Many of my patients live far from my office or have mobility issues that make frequent visits difficult. That's why I am so passionate about empowering you with safe, effective strategies you can use at home. If you live in a major city like New York or Chicago, you might have relatively easy access to a dermatologist. But for those of you in more rural areas, getting specialized care can be a real challenge. My experience over the last 2 decades has taught me one crucial thing. With just a little bit of accurate knowledge, you can manage your skin health far more effectively. Let me tell you about a patient of mine, a wonderful 65-year-old woman named Eleanor Vance. For years, she told me, she'd notice a few dark spots appearing under her cheekbones every summer. At first, she didn't think much of it. "It's just part of getting older," she'd say to herself. But over time, the spots started getting darker and more numerous. She began to worry. She distinctly remembered them getting much worse after a vacation she took to Florida with her grandkids one year. What started as a faint discoloration that could be covered with a bit of foundation soon became too dark for even the thickest concealer to hide. Feeling self-conscious, Eleanor turned to the internet for answers. Her search results were a deluge of so-called natural cures. Articles and videos claimed that wiping her face with vinegar would make the spots disappear, that applying onion juice would lighten them, that lemon was a miracle cure. Overwhelmed but hopeful, she decided to try them one by one. She started with apple cider vinegar. She diluted it with water, soaked a cotton pad, and applied it to her spots every night. For the first few days, nothing happened. But after about a week, her skin started to tingle and sting. She thought, maybe this means it's working, and pushed through the discomfort. Next, she tried onion juice. She grated an onion, squeezed out the liquid, and used a cotton swab to dab it directly onto the spots. Again, there was no immediate reaction, but within a couple of days, her skin became red and inflamed. Still, she didn't stop. She had read testimonials online from people who said it took a week to see results, while others claimed you had to stick with it for a month. Determined, she pressed on. Finally, she tried the lemon juice. She squeezed a fresh lemon and applied the pure juice directly to her skin. This is when the real trouble began. 2 days after starting the lemon juice treatment, her face erupted. She woke up to find small, painful blisters forming on her cheeks. Her skin was fiery red, swollen, and so sensitive that it hurt to even look at herself in the mirror. That's when she finally realized something was terribly wrong. She stopped everything and began rinsing her face with cool water, but it was too late. The damage was done. She had given herself a severe chemical burn. For days, it was too painful to even wash her face. She told me she couldn't sleep at night. The slightest touch of her cheek to the pillow sent a shooting pain through her skin. Even a gentle breeze from an open window felt like 1,000 tiny needles. Her family, seeing her in such distress, insisted she go to the hospital, and that's how she ended up in my clinic's emergency walk-in hours. After a careful examination, the diagnosis was clear. Her original problem wasn't some complex, untreatable condition. It was simple sunspots, also known as solar lentigines. It was something that could have been easily managed, and likely faded, with a consistent application of an over-the-counter hydroquinone cream, a product that costs about as much as a couple of cups of coffee. But because she had followed dangerous advice, she had inflicted a chemical burn on top of her sunspots. This trauma to the skin resulted in severe post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, leaving her with dark brown patches that were far more prominent than the initial spots. Her treatment ended up taking over a month just to heal the burn, followed by several more months of intensive therapy to address the deep pigmentation that remained. The cost was exponentially higher than the price of the simple cream that would have worked in the first place, and the process cost her months of physical discomfort and emotional distress. If you stick with me through this entire discussion, you will understand the full picture. My goal is to help you protect your own health and the health of your loved ones. The more people who have this information, the fewer stories like Eleanor's I will hear in my clinic. Understanding how to accurately identify these common skin spots is the first and most critical step. To prevent you from making these same mistakes, I am now going to teach you how to precisely differentiate between 5 of the most common and easily confused pigmented skin lesions. How to accurately distinguish common pigmented skin lesions. 1. Sunspots. Solar lentigines. First, let's talk about sunspots, which many people call age spots or liver spots. These are small, flat, well-defined brown spots that appear on skin that has been exposed to ultraviolet UV radiation over many years. Think of them as your skin's memory of all the sun exposure you've ever had. You'll typically find them on the face, the back of the hands, the arms, and the upper chest, all areas that see a lot of sunday. Their size is usually comparable to a grain of rice or a lentil, and they tend to be round or oval-shaped. Research from the American Academy of Dermatology has shown that consistent, Daily use of sunscreen can not only prevent new sunspots from forming, but can also help fade existing ones. These spots tend to increase in number and darkness dramatically after the age of 50. I had a patient, a 6'9" man named David, who was an avid golfer. Every summer for decades, he spent hours on the golf course. He came to me because he noticed small brown spots appearing on his arms and the left side of his face, the side most exposed to the sun while driving. What started as a few faint spots in his 50s had become a dense constellation of dark, noticeable marks by his late 60s. The good news is that true sunspots can often be managed effectively with topical creams containing hydroquinone, such as an over-the-counter 2% cream or prescription-strength 4% formulas. When applied consistently, these ingredients work by slowing down the production of melanin, the pigment that gives the spots their color. With regular use, the spots can lighten considerably. A word of caution: if you have sensitive skin, hydroquinone can cause irritation. It's always wise to perform a patch test on a small area, like behind your ear, for a few days before applying it to your face. If you experience significant redness, stinging, or itching, you should stop using it immediately. So, take a look at your skin. Do you have clearly defined, flat, brown spots that have been getting darker over the years? 2. Melasma. Next up is melasma. This is a very different beast from a simple sunspot. Melasma is a complex pigmentary disorder where hormonal changes, UV exposure, and a genetic predisposition all conspire to create patchy, blotchy areas of brown or grayish-brown pigmentation. Unlike the crisp, distinct borders of a sunspot, melasma typically has blurry, irregular edges. It often appears as larger patches, almost like a faint stain spreading across the skin. A study from the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology found that hormonal fluctuations are a major trigger, with a significant percentage of cases worsening after pregnancy or with the use of birth control pills. It is particularly common in women and often appears symmetrically on both sides of the face, typically on the cheeks, forehead, upper lip, and bridge of the nose. Let me tell you about another patient, Susan, who is 62. She came to see me after menopause, deeply distressed about the brown mask that had appeared on her face. She explained that after her hormonal changes began, she developed these symmetric, blotchy patches on her cheeks. At first, makeup could cover it, but as it darkened, even heavy-duty concealers couldn't hide it. Managing melasma requires a multi-pronged approach: a gentle whitening agent, a rich moisturizer to support the skin barrier, and, most importantly, diligent sun protection. This is where many people go wrong. They seek out aggressive laser treatments, hoping to blast the pigment away. However, for melasma, certain types of lasers can generate too much heat, which can paradoxically make the pigmentation even worse, a phenomenon known as rebound hyperpigmentation. Laser therapy for melasma must be approached with extreme caution and administered by an expert. Melasma is notoriously stubborn and prone to recurrence. The goal should not be a quick fix, but a slow and steady lightening of the pigment. Patience and consistency are your greatest allies. So, ask yourself, do you have blotchy, symmetric patches of discoloration on your cheeks or forehead with indistinct borders? 3. Seborrheic keratosis. Now for our third lesion, the seborrheic keratosis. This is a benign, non-cancerous skin growth that is a very common part of skin aging. When you touch one, it often feels slightly greasy, waxy, and raised from the skin surface with a stuck-on appearance, almost like a drop of candle wax. The color can range from tan to dark brown or even black. According to research from the Skin Cancer Foundation, more than 70% of adults over the age of 60 will have at least one seborrheic keratosis. They commonly appear on the face, neck, chest, and back. A key characteristic is that they tend to grow larger and thicker over time. Robert, a 73-year-old patient of mine, first came in with a single, small, tangent-colored spot on his temple. Over the course of a few years, it grew to the size of a dime and became bumpy and dark brown. He also developed several more on his neck, which he found bothersome because they would constantly catch on his shirt collars and get irritated. Topical creams are generally ineffective for these growths because they are a buildup of skin cells, not just pigment. The most definitive treatment is removal by a dermatologist, which can be done through methods like cryotherapy, freezing, electrocautery, burning, or laser ablation. However, and this is critical, you must never try to pick, scratch, or cut them off yourself. This can lead to bleeding, a high risk of infection, and permanent scarring. So, think about your spots. Are any of them raised, rough, or waxy to the touch? And have they been slowly getting thicker over time? 4. Flat warts. Verruca plana. Our fourth condition, flat warts, often gets confused with other spots because they can appear as clusters of flat-topped, skin-colored, or slightly brownish papules. The key difference is their cause. This is a viral skin infection caused by certain strains of the human papillomavirus, HPV. Unlike the smooth surface of a sunspot, the surface of a flat wart, upon close inspection, is often slightly rough or textured. A study on HPV-related skin conditions noted that flat warts are more common in individuals with a compromised immune system, and they tend to multiply when the body's defenses are down. They frequently appear in large numbers, especially on the face, neck, and hands. I had a patient named Maria, 67, who initially came in concerned about a single, tiny, flat-topped bump on her forehead. Over several months, she noticed dozens more appearing around her cheeks, looking almost like a sprinkle of tiny, discolored spots. She said that when she applied her makeup, she could feel the bumpy texture all over her skin. This is a crucial one to get right. If you mistake flat warts for melasma or sunspots and start applying whitening agents like hydroquinone, you can irritate the skin and potentially make the warts worse. Because they are viral, they can also spread to other parts of your body or even to family members through close contact. The best course of action is to have them treated by a dermatologist, typically with cryotherapy, laser, or topical prescription medications that stimulate the immune system to fight the virus. Take a close look at your skin, perhaps with a magnifying mirror. Do you have clusters of small, flat-topped bumps that almost look like a rash of tiny spots? 5. Stucco-keratosis, a variant of seborrheic keratosis. Finally, let's discuss a specific type of keratosis that often causes confusion. This lesion, sometimes called stucco-keratosis, presents as small brown or gray-white scaly papules that look as if they've been stuck on the skin. They often have a dry, crumbly texture, and if you were to scratch one, small pieces might flake off. The surface can sometimes feel oily or sticky. Data published by the American Osteopathic College of Dermatology shows that these are extremely common, with up to 80% of adults over 50 experiencing them. They are most frequently found on the chest, back, and face, and they tend to multiply and grow over time. I remember a patient, Ito, who was 71. He came in worried about multiple brown, crusty growths on his chest and back. He initially thought it was just dead skin and tried to scrub it off in the shower, but it wouldn't budge and only made his skin sore and irritated. Like other seborrheic keratoses, these are best removed with simple in-office procedures like electrocautery or laser. However, self-diagnosis is absolutely forbidden here. Why? Because in some rare cases, certain forms of skin cancer, like nodular melanoma, can mimic the appearance of a dark seborrheic keratosis. It is essential to have any new, changing, or suspicious growth evaluated by a professional. If a spot suddenly grows quickly, changes color, or starts to bleed, you need to see a doctor right away. So, do you have any growths that look like small, brown, scaly scabs that seem stuck on and might crumble if you picked at them? Just knowing the differences between these 5 conditions will dramatically change how you approach treatment. In the next section, we will focus specifically on sunspots and discuss the home care products you can use to manage them safely and effectively. A guide to home care products and their safe use for sunspots. 1. Over-the-counter hydroquinone creams. The most accessible and well-studied treatment for simple sunspots is a cream containing hydroquinone. You can typically find products with a 2% concentration over the counter at any drugstore. Hydroquinone is the gold standard for skin lightening. It works by acting as a tyrosinase inhibitor, which means it blocks the enzyme responsible for producing melanin. The application method is simple but precise. At night, after washing your face and applying a light toner or serum, use a cotton swab to apply a very small amount of the cream only to the dark spots themselves. Do not slather it all over your face, and it is crucial that you only use it at night. Why? Because hydroquinone can cause photosensitivity, and when exposed to UV light, it can paradoxically cause more pigmentation, a condition known as acrenosis. If you are using hydroquinone for the first time, a patch test is non-negotiable. Apply a small dab to the skin behind your ear or on your inner wrist and wait 24 to 48 hours. If you see any signs of a significant reaction, like intense redness, swelling, or blistering, do not use the product. Some mild stinging or redness can be normal initially, but if it persists or is severe, stop using it immediately. You need to be patient. Visible results typically begin to appear after 3 to 6 weeks of consistent nightly use. I had a 6-7-year-old patient named Mary who came in with sunspots on both cheeks. After 2 months of diligently applying a 2% hydroquinone cream every night, she came back for a follow-up, and her spots had lightened by at least 50%. Have you ever experienced irritation after trying a new lightening cream? 2. Prescription combination creams. For example, Triluma. For more stubborn sunspots or certain cases of melasma, a dermatologist may prescribe a more powerful combination cream. These formulations typically contain 3 active ingredients: hydroquinone, usually at a higher 4% concentration, a retinoid like tretinoin, and a mild topical steroid. The tretinoin is a key player here. It accelerates skin cell turnover, helping to exfoliate the pigmented cells more quickly and allowing the hydroquinone to penetrate more effectively. The steroid helps to reduce inflammation and irritation that can be caused by the other 2 ingredients. Because this combination is so potent, it must be used with care and only under a doctor's supervision. The application rules are even stricter. You should start by using it only twice a week, at night, to allow your skin to acclimate. If your skin tolerates it well after a couple of weeks, you can gradually increase the frequency to 3 times a week, and eventually every other night as advised by your doctor. The amount you use is also critical. A pea-sized amount is enough for the entire face. Applying more will not speed up the results. It will only increase the risk of severe irritation. You should also wait at least 30 minutes after application before applying any other products like a moisturizer. A patient of mine, Kim, 64, was prescribed a combination cream for her persistent sunspots. She told me that for the first week, her skin peeled quite a bit and felt itchy. This is a common and expected side effect as the tretinoin goes to work. However, after about a month, her skin adjusted, and she saw a remarkable lightening of her spots. Common side effects include dryness, peeling, redness, and itching. If these symptoms are severe, you need to reduce the frequency of use or temporarily stop and consult your doctor. Have you ever used a prescription cream that caused your skin to peel or feel sensitive? 3. Knowing when to stop and what to expect. One of the most important aspects of using any topical treatment for pigmentation is knowing when it's working and when it's time to stop. Here's a simple rule of thumb. If you have used an entire tube of an over-the-counter product as directed and have seen absolutely no change, it is highly likely that your spot is not a simple sunspot. If it is a true sunspot, you should see some degree of change within 4 to 6 weeks of consistent use. This might be a visible lightening of the color, a slight reduction in size, or, at the very least, a halt in the spot getting any darker. If you've been using a cream for over a month with zero improvement, it's more likely you're dealing with melasma, a seborrheic keratosis, or another type of lesion that won't respond to hydroquinone alone. Continuing to apply the cream in this case is pointless and only exposes your skin to unnecessary irritation. I had a patient, Mr. Watanabe, 69, who was convinced the brown patch on his cheek was a sunspot. He applied a hydroquinone cream for 2 months with no change at all. When he finally came to my office, an examination revealed it was melasma, which required a completely different treatment plan It's also crucial that you don't try to speed things up by applying the cream more frequently or in larger amounts. Overuse of hydroquinone can lead to serious side effects, including the aforementioned acrenosis, which results in a dark, bluish-black discoloration that is very difficult to treat. To accurately judge your progress, I recommend taking a clear photo of your spot in the same lighting once a week. Because you see your face every day, gradual changes can be hard to notice. A photographic record provides objective proof of whether the treatment is working. Have you ever used a product for over a month and wondered if you should just give up? 4. When home care isn't enough. Knowing when to see a doctor. Distinguishing between a spot you can manage at home and one that requires professional medical attention is vital. You should make an appointment with a dermatologist if you have a spot that is larger than 6 millimeters, the size of a pencil eraser, has an irregular asymmetric border, contains multiple colors, for example, shades of brown, black, red, or blue, has a blurry or poorly defined border. Furthermore, any lesion that appears suddenly and changes rapidly, bleeds, or is intensely itchy should be examined immediately, as these can be warning signs of skin cancer and cannot be ignored. In a clinical setting, we can offer treatments that are much more powerful than anything you can get at home. Procedures like intense pulsed light, IPL, and various types of laser toning can deliver faster and more dramatic results. Of course, these treatments are more expensive and require some post-procedure care. For a definitive diagnosis, especially for a tricky spot, we can use a tool called a dermatoscope. This is a special handheld microscope that allows us to see features of a lesion that are invisible to the naked eye, making the distinction between different types of spots much clearer. A combined approach can also be very effective. You can use a consistent home care routine for basic management and schedule periodic checkups with your dermatologist for professional assessment and more intensive treatments when needed. This ensures you are managing your skin safely and effectively. Now, let's bring all of this together with a final summary, some key action points, and a look at what we'll discuss next time. Conclusion. Your action plan for healthy skin. If there is only one thing you take away from our discussion today, let it be this. Though they may look alike, pigmented lesions of the skin are fundamentally different. A sunspot might fade beautifully with a simple $15 drugstore cream, but if you have melasma, the wrong laser treatment could make it tragically worse. If you have a seborrheic keratosis and try to pick it off, you risk infection and a permanent scar. And if you have flat warts or a stucco keratosis, you cannot make an accurate diagnosis just by looking in the mirror. You need a professional to tell you what it is. This is especially true for growths that resemble seborrheic keratosis, which on rare occasions can be mimicked by skin cancer, making a dermatologist's diagnosis absolutely essential. Let me reiterate the dangers of mismanagement. If you mistake a sunspot for melasma and undergo an aggressive laser treatment, you could end up with even worse hyperpigmentation. I once treated a patient who had received over 10 IPL sessions at a med spa with no improvement. A quick examination in my office revealed her spots were not melasma at all. They were classic sunspots, a condition for which a simple topical cream would have been far more appropriate and effective. Conversely, if you mistake melasma for a sunspot and only apply a whitening cream, you will likely be disappointed. Melasma has a deep hormonal component and requires a comprehensive treatment plan. A single cream often isn't enough. Picking at a seborrheic keratosis, especially those on the neck or under the arms that can get snagged on jewelry or clothing, can cause them to tear open, bleed, and become infected. We see this in the clinic all the time. Flat warts are viral, meaning they can spread across your own skin and even to your loved ones. Shaving, for example, can create tiny nicks in the skin, and if you have flat warts, you can end up with a linear trail of new warts along the path of the razor. Medically, this is known as the Koebner phenomenon, and once it happens, treatment becomes much more complex. And let us not forget the dangers of folk remedies. Applying acidic substances like vinegar, onion juice, or lemon juice can cause severe chemical burns. I have seen countless patients in my career who tried these methods and ended up with blistering skin. In the worst cases, people have sustained second or even third-degree burns that required treatment from a plastic surgeon. Lemon juice is particularly hazardous, due to a phenomenon called phytophotodermatitis. When certain plant compounds, like those in citrus fruits, are on the skin and then exposed to UV light, they can trigger a severe inflammatory reaction, like a chemical burn on overdrive. However, when you get the diagnosis right, the outcome can be wonderfully simple. A true sunspot can be significantly faded with a hydroquinone cream. 4 to 6 weeks of consistent application can produce visible results. I have patients whose dark brown spots became nearly invisible after 3 months of correct, simple treatment. What was once a dark, confidence-draining blemish faded until it was almost indistinguishable from the surrounding skin, all for the cost of a single tube of cream. Melasma, when accurately diagnosed, can also be greatly improved. The key is to avoid rushing into aggressive treatments and instead focus on a consistent routine of a gentle whitening agent and, most importantly, sunscreen. For some post-menopausal women, managing hormonal changes can also lead to significant improvement in their melasma. Seborrheic keratoses and stuccokeratoses can be removed in minutes in a dermatologist's office with simple procedures like cryotherapy or electrocautery. These treatments are quick, often taking less than 10 minutes, and leave behind almost no scarring. A small scab forms, falls off within a week or so, and the skin underneath is clear. The most critical factors are early detection and accurate diagnosis. Treating a small spot when it first appears is always easier, faster, and less expensive. This is why you must get into the habit of observing your own skin. The best time to do this is when you're getting out of the shower or washing your face. Once a month, take 5 minutes to do a full body scan in a well-lit room with a full-length mirror. Look for any new spots or any changes in existing ones. The single most important thing you can start doing today is wearing sunscreen. Prevention is always the best medicine. Whether it's a sunspot or melasma, UV radiation is the primary environmental factor that makes them worse. You must wear a broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of 30 or higher every single day, and you should reapply it every 2 to 3 hours if you are outdoors. Even when you are indoors, UV rays can penetrate window glass, so it's safest to just make it a non-negotiable part of your morning routine. If you drive a lot, you may notice more sun damage on the left side of your face and on your left arm. Pay extra attention to those areas. My other plea to you is this. If you have a suspicious lesion, please do not rely on yourself, on internet forums, or on the advice of a well-meaning neighbor. Seek professional medical advice. If a spot grows quickly, changes color, bleeds, or itches, do not hesitate, go to a dermatologist immediately. These can be signs of malignant changes. Regular skin cancer screenings, perhaps once a year, are also an excellent preventative measure. A professional can check areas you can't see well, like your back and scalp. Finally, please share the information you've learned today with your family and friends. These pigmentary issues become increasingly common after the age of 60, and knowing this information beforehand can be incredibly helpful. In our next video, we will dive deep into the 3 biggest mistakes people make when trying to treat melasma. If you are considering laser treatment, it is a must-watch. We'll cover why melasma sometimes gets worse after treatment and explore the safest, most effective therapeutic pathways. What do you think? What was the most helpful piece of information for you today? Do you have any lingering questions? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your skin health won't be transformed overnight, but with the right knowledge and consistent care, it can and will get better. I hope that what I've shared today will be a valuable tool in your journey to healthier skin. I am already preparing our next session to bring you more practical and safe skincare advice. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you found this information valuable, please consider subscribing and liking this video, as it helps this knowledge reach more people who need it. I look forward to seeing you next time. Here's to your healthy skin. I will continue to do my best to help you achieve it.